Are you someone that constantly plays safe? Do you tend to find excuses rather than taking actions? Are you waiting for external triggers to dictate your life? Do you suppress your deepest desire? Do you feel like something needs to change, that something isn't right, but you let your fears taking over? If you answered yes to one of those questions, stay until the end, because after watching this video, you will approach your fears from a whole different perspective. Your fears will become your fuel to take actions rather than blocking you from reaching your goals. But why listening to my advice rather than somebody else? No, I wasn't born fearless. Since my childhood, I've actually been pretty normal at confronting my fears. I learned to control my fears quite late and by accident. But I made sure of one thing, that I won't let my fears dictate my life any longer. I've decided to share in this video 5 takeaways. Stay until the end, because the 5th takeaway is a takeaway so special that I'm still using it on a weekly basis. To understand this random incident, we have to go back 10 years ago, when I was 27 and still living in Paris. I was working in the bank industry for 5 years. My job was not very exciting, despite me being very good at it. My colleagues were kind, but I had little in common with them. They were all 40 years old plus, they had kids and a mortgage to pay. The only thing I learned in the bank industry was to play safe. The bank had already many customers, and they were more worried about not losing customers than making new ones. Our only focus was updating the software to meet the new legal requirements. No wonder why going there on Monday was not very exciting. On the personal side, things were not better. I was in the middle of a 3-year relationship with a girl that I deeply loved. But our relationship turned toxic. I was too immature to understand that we had fallen in patterns that we couldn't escape. And then the random incident happened. On a hot summer day, I remember being crushed against other passengers due to a transit strike, as it often happened in Paris. As I was wearing the uniform that you have to wear in a bank, a tie and a suit, I could feel in the back of my neck a drop of sweat that slowly went from the top of my neck to my lower back. When the metro arrived 30 minutes late to the final destination, my shirt had become a sponge. Understandably, I wasn't in my best mood. Worse than that, I was late. When I rushed from the subway to work, as I passed by a homeless person that always sits on the road on my way to work, I remember thinking, "Leave me, man. Can't you just get a job?" On that day, at that exact moment, I realized that I had lost the most precious part of me, my kindness and my deep care for all human beings. I had become a robot that had no more empathy for others. Later on, I realized that this homeless was actually working as a mirror. He was the one telling me, "Leave." That drop of sweat that formed in my neck when I was in the subway turned out to be the straw on the camel's back. I needed to change. I needed a full reset. I had arrived to that point simply because I had learned to play safe. But I was no longer willing to stay in this golden cage. Since I felt cornered, I remember thinking that only going for my dream will help me going outside of this situation. I decided to shoot for the impossible. I will follow my dream at the time, applying for a job in the US, where it's very hard to get a visa, and in a different industry than in the bank industry. I knew that it was close to impossible, but at least I would have tried, and I would be able to go back in my cage, feeling that I gave my everything. As I followed up on my words, I applied to several jobs in the US. I got so close from landing a job. I arrived second. I remember thinking, maybe that's a sign. Maybe after all, I'm not meant to follow my dreams. But the conversation with the hiring recruiter told me otherwise. She told me that I had a great profile and that the next job will be the right one. Where most people will read between the lines and just think it's an excuse, I decided to listen to her words. What if the next one was the right one for me? And despite being affected, I finally decided to be bold by lack of other alternatives. I decided to follow through and keep on applying. Turned out that I managed it. I managed to land a 1.5-year visa for a job located in Boston to work as a software engineer for a healthcare company. I would lie if I would tell you that I managed to get that job through my own will. It was my environment that pushed me to address my fears. But I had learned a very important lesson, that it's actually okay to aim for your goals. I decided to apply that learning 1 year later, when I decided to quit my job in the US to shift from computer science to marketing. I wouldn't let my fears dictate my life any longer. I decided to follow my passion, even if it came at the cost and restarting all the way down. Fast forward to 10 years later, I'm now still working in marketing, in my passion. I manage a team of more than 20 people in Europe and in Asia. There's not one single Monday where I'm going to work unhappy. I expanded my ability to confront my fears, both professionally and personally. I'm not saying that facing your fears is something easy, but if I manage to do it accidentally, after watching this video, you will be able to do it proactively. And I'm the proof that facing your fears is something that's so worth it. I lived on 4 continents. I have a job that I love going to every Monday, which gives me so much energy, I have enough time for my hobbies and helping other people. I'm now at a stage where I manage to transcend my fears. I've compiled everything I learned over the last 10 years to make sure that you have everything you need. I'm curious to hear what you think of the 5th point, because it's personally my favorite. Takeaway number 1 is learning to redefine the definition of fear. There's 2 types of fears. The fears that is designed for survival, that is pointing a danger ahead, and the fears that is designed to block you in your comfort zone, that you need to transcend. You need to learn to make the difference between those 2 types of fears. One that is useful and one that is no longer serving you. In my case, on that particular day, the cost of not changing became too strong. There was the weight of my unhappiness at work, of my issues in my toxic relationship, of my shirt that became like a sponge, and finally, the straw on the camel's back, that homeless person was reflecting to me that it was time for me to leave. The cost of not changing is more important than the fear of changing. We're going to learn in the next steps how to face your fears rather than waiting for external events. Because if you're not like me, if you don't have an issue in a relationship, that your job is just good enough, you might simply never face your fears. Takeaway number 2, remind yourself that it's not the first time that you're facing your fears. In my particular case, moving to Germany was already easier. I had learned to move abroad and to go outside of the comfort zone when I moved to the US at the time. When I had the chance to move to Australia, it was even easier because I had already learned to move abroad twice. Going outside of the comfort zone is the best thing you can ever do. If moving abroad is something that still scares you, identify something that at the time seems like impossible, like going to a new class, going to the gym for the very first time, or asking someone you like to go on a date. With every first time comes discomfort, but make the reward so worth it. If you did it in the past, why can't you do it again now? Takeaway 3, address your fear of judgment. People are too busy being in their own mind, facing their own fears, to think of yours. Don't be stuck by what other people think of you. But to your own surprise, you will find supporters, so better focus on them. Concretely what it means. For example, when this video is going online, I could be scared and fear the judgment from others. But if this video helped even one person, it will be worth my time. So better focus on that. People respect far more people that tries. And people are way more supportive than judgmental. Use critics to improve yourself, but don't overthink it. Takeaway number 4. What's the worst that can happen? The biggest regrets that people have on their deathbed is not trying. As a human, we tend to overestimate the impact from our fears and underestimate the positive impact from changing. It's easy to say in theory, but how to address it in practice? There is a technique that I call the so what technique. This is a technique that I've been using with the people that I'm coaching to help them identify that their fears are overinflated. Let's take an example. I used the so what technique in one of the coaching sessions that I gave to help somebody facing his fears. He reached out to me because he was working in a company that was facing economical issues. But on the other hand, he was curious to pursue his dream in the music industry. He wanted to discover if he can make a living out of it. But because of this uncertainty, he even wondered, should I apply to another company first? We played out the 3 scenarios. Scenario number 1. He applies for a new job and get accepted. So what? He will have to get familiar with a new working environment, be more stressed, and have less time for his passion. Scenario number 2. He decides to quit his job and follow his passion for music. So what? He doesn't manage to make a living out of it. So what? He doesn't have enough money and he has to go back to his parents. So what? He might learn faster if he can make a living out of his passion for music, but it might impact negatively his lifestyle. Scenario number 3, we explored what will happen if he will stay in his current company. So what? His company can close down, he will be laid off, and he will lose his job. So what? What's the worst that can happen? In Germany, you have the chance to have unemployment money. Thanks to that, he will have the time to apply for another role while exploring his passion for music. Another alternative is that his company keeps on struggling or recovers. In both cases, he will have to work 4 days out of 5, to free 1 day on the top of the weekend to explore his passion for music. It's a concrete example to reevaluate with the so what technique the real value behind your fears. We reevaluated together the risk-reward ratio of each of the opportunities, and we defined that for him, the best was actually to stay in his current job. He was not expecting this outcome, but he felt so relieved from having played out the worst-case scenario. If you also want some help and get a free coaching, you can use the link in the description below. It's free and there's no commitment. And now takeaway number 5, my personal favorite. If you're still watching this video, don't hesitate to give a like, to subscribe, or just add a comment. I will know that you have been watching until this point. And now finally, learning how to channel your fears. What if I will tell you that you have been labeling incorrectly your fears for most of your life? On this planet, humans have been designed to experience. And fears is not pointing at something to avoid, rather at something to conquer. Fear is a sign of growth opportunity. So let's look at the impacts that fears have on your body. Your heart starts to race. Your palms are sweating. You have a shortness of breath. These are the exact same signs as excitement. The best way to channel your fear is to realize that you're actually being excited to confront your fear. How do I know this? It's simply because you wouldn't feel any fears towards something that is not important for you. For example, if I will tell you, do you feel any fears about opening your hair salon? If this is not something meaningful for you, chances are you will not even have any fears. But for a hairstylist that really wants to open his hair salon, this might be one of the biggest fears he will feel. Fear is a compass in the directions that you have to follow, not to avoid. Always choosing the easy path won't help you grow, but confronting your fears will. But yet, very few of us are acknowledging the excitement we feel before facing a fear. I would like to give you 2 keys to embrace your fears. Key number 1, be grateful. It sounds odd, but whenever you feel fear, just be grateful. When you think about it, whenever my heart is racing, because I'm confronting a fear, I'm pausing and I'm grateful for that moment, realizing that I'm addressing something that's important to me. The second key, simply have some fun. When you're confronted with a fear, the best way to embrace it is to smile. You can still fake it. It will help you relax. Don't take life too seriously. I won't lie, I also faced some fears before filming this video, but I can't wait to watch it again in 1 year and smile and observe all the progress I will have made. This mindset is helping me addressing the fears. To wrap up this video, I would like to finish with 2 points. The more you practice, the easier it gets. Even if at the start we all need a little push. I hope this video was the little push you needed to face your fears. If you want more help or need a continuous push, don't hesitate to reach out. The link is in the description. I'm happy to help for free. Second point, I would love to leave you with a question. Considering that taking no risk is the biggest risk you can take, are you sure that you're not avoiding any risk when you are going through your life?